on the final stretch of our day one coverage here at Microsoft Ignite. I'm Sarah Critchley, and it looks like we've saved the best for last, if I don't say so myself. I have the amazing James Phillips here talking about the future of business applications. For those of you who don't know, James looks after his CVP of business applications, looks after pretty much the whole thing. So hi, James.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Brilliant, of course.
It's good to be here.
So before I ask you, I'm
going to get a Sarah question.
You are going to get a Sarah question.
All right,
of course you are. So you've got so much insight to offer around the Power Platform. I want some more insight around woodland animals right now, right?
Okay.
So if you was a woodland animal, what woodland animal would you be?
I think I'd be a badger.
That's an amazing answer. Tell me a bit more why.
Because when I grab onto something, I don't let go.
That's brilliant.
I love the aggressiveness of badgers. I don't know if they live in the woods, but I would.
That's fine. And I think they do live in the woods. I think that's a really good one. Thank you so much.
You bet.
So in terms of business applications in Power Platform, right?
Yeah.
So Bill Gates, he wanted a computer in every home. Satch's vision is pretty clear in terms of the fact he wants to empower every person, every organization to do more and to achieve more, right? And in doing so, it's very much about making everyone app makers.
Yeah.
So we've had the Power Platform for around 3 years now. It's just GA'd for 3 years.
Yeah.
What now? What's the future of the Power Platform and Biz Apps?
So we've got sort of the near future and the far future. So today, in fact, we just announced a couple of new capabilities in the Power Platform. So we introduced Power Virtual Agents, which allows anyone to build an AI-powered interactive chatbot without writing code. Huge step forward, I think, for the platform. We also added RPA capabilities, robotic process automation, UI flows, into what was Microsoft Flow that we renamed today to Power Automate. So we're already innovating ahead of where we were. I think if you look at sort of the further future, the far future, I think augmented reality, mixed reality is an opportunity that is only going to get increasingly interesting, and I think the Power Platform will probably be sort of the high volume way to go take advantage of that opportunity over the next few years.
That's amazing. So there's so many areas that really it can grow into.
For sure, yeah.
Fantastic. So in doing so, in making everyone app makers, it means there's going to be a lot more people creating apps.
Yeah.
And essentially everyone wants to save the world. Everyone wants to do something amazing.
Yep.
How do we make sure that they don't step on each other's toes, but they stay enthused, they stay having that enthusiasm to change?
So I think insofar as not stepping on each other, and it's a big concern actually, when you create a platform that allows anyone to innovate in an organization, naturally there's a concern about how do you manage, how do you administer, how do you keep sanity in the environment where everyone's scrumming to go innovate. And part of the Power Platform is sort of natively this ability to administer, govern, keep, we talk about giving people a long leash.
Yeah.
Where you're not unleashing them to go wreak havoc, but you're giving them enough room to go innovate, but within boundaries that allows everyone to not collide and frankly to build on the same data model. Mm-hmm. So that when I build an application in an organization, I'm populating data in a well understood structure that someone else can now leverage. And so versus colliding, you actually start creating synergies.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know that Microsoft have done a lot of work in a center of excellence as well.
Yeah.
So I think that does help.
Without
really
question.
Them.
Yeah. It's amazing actually how the community is just grabbing onto this Power Platform, both at large and within organizations. It's unlike anything I've ever lived through.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful for you to see, right?
It is. Absolutely.
Brilliant. And it's interesting you mentioned community, right? Because Microsoft, so the community has become so important to Microsoft. I know that it was still quite important, like kind of in the early days, but it's just been increasing.
Yes.
And you can even see it at Microsoft Ignite, right? The community
Absolutely.
areas and all of that stuff.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit more about your personal journey with the community. What does it mean to you?
So it means probably two things to me. So number one, look, I can relate. So when I was a kid, I taught myself how to program, and I started with sort of low code, no code. DBase 2 at the time was my platform of choice. And so I know what it means to sort of be on the ground when something's starting to get some energy and to be part of that. So I can relate. And it sort of brings me back in some ways to the earlier days of my career and even my childhood. But the thing that I think is most interesting for me is seeing the impact that the Power Platform and the community that's surrounding it has made on the lives and the careers of the people who have sort of attached themselves to it. Samit, at Heathrow, all of these people that have discovered Power Apps, Flow, Power Automate, and have done amazing things for their organizations and the community at large. And it's not only impacted the community, it's impacted the trajectory of their careers, and in many cases their lives. So that to me is incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, I resonate with that so much, right? And you're right, like these people are becoming, everyone becomes friends, like in terms of the community. And in terms of it changing lives, it elevates them in their company, it opens themselves to new opportunities.
Absolutely.
And that's a great thing from a company perspective as well, because there's going to be there's essentially, we're trying to make app makers and app developers for the future.
You bet.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So in terms of the community, and I know that there's a lot of work with STEM in schools and with the younger generations to try to get them on board. And I think the Power Platform is obviously amazing, and I know that you do as well in terms of getting people up from those generations.
Yeah.
What can we do more though for perhaps the older generations?
Like me.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. Hey, I'm like kind of grey sometimes as well. This isn't always purple.
Got it.
But in terms of those older generations, like not everyone is like you. Not everyone embraces technology with both hands.
Yeah.
So like, how can we empower those people, especially when they're in hard to reach places, to take that technology?
That's a good question. I'm not sure that I have a really solid answer, to be honest with you. I think what we're trying to do from one of the things that we see frequently in organizations is a concern when technology comes in and it looks like it might take my job, for example. And we see that typically with folks who are scared in some ways about the potential impact to their livelihoods of technology. And so what we're trying to do is to build solutions that don't replace, but rather empower. And we showed today with Power Apps, TrueGreen, some of their older workers who are out calling on customers to provide lawn care have really gotten excited about the ability to apply AI through AI Builder and Power Apps to diagnose lawn issues, to understand, to really make them smarter. It's about lifting them up and not pushing them down in some ways. And I think the more we can create solutions that come in that direction versus the other, obviously the more success we're going to have.
That's such a good point, So essentially it's that the story, it's almost like that kind of how we tell the story internally to those organizations.
I think that's right.
And if we tell it with that empathy, and I think that this is why a lot of the customer success stories that we see in keynotes and we see talked about is because that message has landed.
That's right.
That's what's happened.
You bet.
That's amazing. Yeah. So just a couple more questions regarding the community.
Sure.
Right? So in terms of the community, what can, it's about the growth. What do you think that we can do more in terms of grow the community? Is it a case of doing the same as what we're doing now? Or do you think we need to do some more things?
So I think that one of the things that I love is the D365 Power Platform Saturday program that it's really been. In fact, I'm going to go to an event, I think next week, next Saturday, and I love those. I think the ability to sort of get people together physically and to really bring it out to the community, I think that's huge. And I think the more that we can do that, where we're really bringing people together, it adds a different dimension than sort of the digital togetherness, if you will. And I think the combination of those two things builds strong communities. And so I'd love to see more of the sort of in-person IRL meetings versus all digital.
That's amazing. And it's interesting you mentioned kind of those in-person events, because I think that's where you see the real energy. I think that as much as we're obviously technology advocates massively, it's very hard for technology to, and I don't think the Microsoft technology ever tries to replace the in-person communication. It's about making it easier and making it easier to innovate and do more.
But and to be inclusive if you're not there.
Exactly, exactly that. And I think those in-person events are all about the energy and essentially kind of, having those real, I think looking someone in the eyes and having that real conversation can never be replaced.
No doubt about it.
So that's amazing,
Yeah.
and it's essentially so it's interesting. So a second question on that: if we was to build more, essentially we need to kind of like grow more, and we would be able to connect more of the cities, countries worldwide.
Yes, I think so. Absolutely. I think there are a lot of places. In fact, I just got out of a meeting with a customer in New Zealand, and there's a hunger there for information. So what I heard from this customer was, we don't understand sort of what's coming, and if you can somehow or another get us the information. And I think the community has probably the biggest role to play there, even way beyond us. There's relative to the world population, Microsoft employees are a very small number. And so the more we can sort of leverage the community to carry the message and to bring education to those who clearly want it, the better off we're going to be.
That's amazing, and again, like going back to what we saw in Satch's keynote, the community is so central to business applications. I think the fact that it's about the democratization, and to be able to everyone's included, like you said about inclusion.
That's right. Yeah, Satya, I think he had a stat in his keynote that I just saw today, said by 2023, I think, and I may have gotten the date wrong, but there'll be 500 million applications created, and claimed that that's more than all the applications created since apps. And this sort of Power Platform is the only way that happens. There aren't enough software developers on planet Earth, and the amount of time required to build applications through traditional sort of software development processes, tooling, wouldn't allow that to happen. Not that there's not a place for that, there absolutely is, but for the long tail of applications that are very bespoke and very specific to individual organizations and processes, I don't think you can get to those kind of numbers without a very high productivity solution like the Power Platform.
It's all about scale, growth, and essentially how fast and how much you want to go.
Yeah.
So awesome. So one of the final questions.
Yes.
What's your next year look like? Like, we're in November, right?
Yeah.
So like I don't know if you've thought about it like this, right? What's your plan for like kind of next year?
So it's interesting. We've gotten to the point now. This will sound a little kooky, but I feel in some ways like we've only just gotten to the starting line for Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. If you look at all the heavy lifting we've done over the last 3 or 4 years to build out a family of products and services that are reliable, supportable, where we've really innovated and filled this. We had a vision, we had a framework that we were trying to fill, and we've filled it. And so I feel like we've got now a very compelling family of products and services built on top of Azure and alongside Office that makes an even more compelling collection of products. Now it's time to just go push into the market. We just added 1,000 salespeople to the Dynamics 365 business. Mid-cycle, this is like not the $250 million that we put into the business at the start of this fiscal year. This is an incremental investment, which is sort of a signal in some ways to the market that there's just extreme optimism at the company about this business and the growth opportunity that it represents for Microsoft. And so we're just sort of pushing all our chips in right now. And so the next year for me is really about executing, getting our products and services in the hands of everyone that can put them to good use, and really pushing hard to get adoption.
That's amazing, and that's so good to know, right? So yeah, super exciting. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for your time. That's amazing.
My pleasure.
So with that, we wrap up a successful and informative day one. We still have so much to share with you over the next 3 days, so be sure to tune back in to Tuesday morning, 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time for day two, where the focus is all about developers. If you haven't already, authenticate your account in tech communities. You get the fullest experience that Ignite has to offer, including access to all of the breakout content all week long. So thanks for being part of the Microsoft Ignite Live experience, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Thanks, Sue. I'm so sweaty.